welcome to the CastOFF. I am your host, Craig Price. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad you're here. Breaking news tonight, we are recasting Anchorman, but I'll have more information on that in a second. Let's get to the recap of last week. Last week, we had some seasoned veterans, some real good folks. We had Valerie Cameron, and we had the amazing Rob Irvin, who I would call this a complete upset victory. Not that Rob couldn't win, but Valerie Cameron is quite beloved and scares the other contestants so much that when Rob had a pretty commanding win to move into the second round, it came as a shock at the amount. It was like my Patriots last week. It's not that I'm surprised they won. I'm just surprised it was 45-0. But we move on to much more important things for the evening, and that is our lovely guest for this Game 6. I'm waiting for my music. There we go. Paid good money for it. I want to use it. In this corner, from the Clubhouse Podcast, Alex Barnhill. And, of course, my second favorite host from the Nerdy Bitches, that is Liz Serna. How you doing, guys?
Hello.
Doing great. Can't wait to get started.
I have to say my second favorite because, of course, my favorite is my lovely wife, Heather. So don't feel bad, everybody. For those of you who don't know.
Oh, I know I was set up to lose here already, so let's go.
Well, that's why.
It would be real weird otherwise, so yeah. I'm fine with it, yeah. So.
And I have asked my wife to come on the show, and she will not because she likes to watch. She likes to play. She likes to watch people guess. Don't give me that look, you creep. Alex, I see you. You knew who I was talking about, too, so that's even worse. Let's get to you, Alex. I'm afraid to now, over at the Clubhouse. How are things going on?
Yeah, you're implying anything on me. That's on you.
You're making faces.
But we're on vocalnow.com every Sunday with two shows. The Cheap Popcast, dedicated to all things professional wrestling, and then followed up with the Clubhouse Podcast, which is all things pop culture. Lots of fun. If we don't have it, we'll always be active on social media and get in touch with everybody.
I was talking to Rob last week, and this is our third consecutive Clubhouse contestant. And
saving
Jen
the best for last.
Was great. She just missed it by a little bit. She could have won. And Rob had a great job. So now, if you don't win, you're going to have a lot to talk about on Sunday.
Well, we know you just checked Liz's pick all the way down. So
yes, that's exactly.
I got to win over the other judges.
Yes, you have to win over the other judges, right? So, as I talked to Rob, your podcast is like rolling a major boulder downhill. You just got to push it and then just keep up. You have nothing else. So, how did you come up with that particular format of we're just going to keep rolling until we're out of stuff to talk about 3 hours later?
Well, the interesting thing about it was Rob had been doing the podcast for years before I ever came on. Interestingly enough, Vocal Media, the great Vocal Media, picked us up a little over a year ago to start doing internet TV. I had come on about a year before that. And it just became having a conversation, and the fact that we don't agree on everything, but we can talk to each other without flying into F-bombs really helps.
Well, I can't even do that with my wife, so good luck. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Let's move on to someone I've known for, it's getting on, I want to say close to 15 years. That's, no, I'm glad we know each other, but it's just the number is scary. That is the lovely Liz Lemon, I call her. Liz Serna, how are you, Liz?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. How are things going over there at the Nerdy Bitches?
We are doing great.
It sounds so convincing. Blink twice if you're in a hostage situation.
No, I mean, obviously I record with your wife, who is one of my closest friends now, and thank you for that, because, again, like you said, you and I have known each other, 14, 15 years? I don't know, maybe longer.
So you guys do a lot of book clubs. What the last book club you just did? What was the
Yeah, last week we did our most recent book club, and it was Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It is a memoir, and towards the end it gets kind of self-helpy, but it was a great book. I was reading it, and I called Heather, and I was like, I don't call Heather, I never call anybody, but I texted Heather. I was like, we have got to do this book. So she picked it up, and we did it, and It's fantastic. We also do an ongoing Harry Potter book club that we read a couple of those books every year. I mean, we've read them all before, forever, but we decided to go back through it and read them as if we didn't know what was coming. So that's fun. And actually, superstar Randy from this very game show
Randy
has
Redacted,
been
you
on.
call him?
Yeah, he's been on the last couple of our Harry Potter book clubs, and it's been super fun.
Oh, so the No Men Allowed Club has been letting people in, or are you just saying that Randy's not much of a man, so let's bring him on?
I didn't say that.
But
No, Randy broke the, I don't know, what's the opposite of a glass ceiling? I have no idea.
There's a thing I could say, but because we're on YouTube, I won't.
Yeah, he broke something, and we brought him on, and we've had a couple of other gentlemen join us. We are becoming more open to it, but we are running up on the 6-year anniversary of our show in a couple of weeks here. And when we started the show, we just realized there was a massive gap in the market for ladies podcasting at that time. It has changed significantly since then. We're part of the Lady Pod Squad group, and there's a huge ton of lady podcasters out there now, which is fabulous. But, we just kind of figured the guy voices are being heard. So for now, we just, for the first 5 years, 4.5 years, we just kept it to lady guests. And we're not a guest heavy show anyway. It's pretty much just the two of us chatting.
Well, let's move on to the rules, because we've got a game to play. And the rules are fairly simple. We're doing the movie Anchorman, so every time I will offer up a actor, you will give me who you think would be a good replacement. The judges will have conversed and have picked someone, and whoever is the best choice gets 1 point. If you happen to pick my secret selection, that's an additional point, and that is a good way for a lot of people to come back. If you're down a hole, you're never really out of it, because we have 7 characters, but that means there's a potential of 14 points on the board. Now, just because you get the best choice and just because you get Craig's selection doesn't mean you get best choice. So it has split before. So don't get cocky once you see that if someone gets Craig's secret selection, but we'll find out how that happens. Obviously, the person with the most points wins. If there happens to be a tie, we will ask you, when we have not discussed it in advance, a double feature to win, of which I will be the sole arbiter. But today's additional judges were James Owen and Tracy Mangum. Tracy will be heard next week when we do the great show 12 Monkeys, and James Owen will be on as with Tracy on Boxing Day, December 26th, as we talk about the Muppet Christmas Carol. But every single episode of the CastOFF is brought to you by Matinee Heroes, and this week we are talking on December 12th, 12 Monkeys. 12/12, you got to go with 12 Monkeys. So you can go to matineeheroes.com, subscribe to the podcast, or you can head over to matineeheroes.com/castoff to subscribe to the video stream. Are you guys ready to play and recast Anchorman?
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
Oh, wow. The energy is palpable. Well, Alex, you have won the toss. You are the first seed. So we're going to start with the man himself, Will Ferrell as Ron Burgundy. So who do you have potentially replacing? I would say this is going to be very difficult because you have to get a certain type of person to be Ron Burgundy. Who do you have?
Well, I actually kind of had a hard time with this one because it is such a dynamic character that fits no mold prior to Will Ferrell. But I went with Steve Martin. I figured you need a comedy heavyweight who can be goofy, but can also actually be a believable leading man with the love interest.
And you need someone who can be that dumb. Because
yes,
yes,
while still seeming very official.
Right. It takes a very smart man, and Steve Martin is borderline genius. It takes a very smart
he's not
man.
borderline. He's legit genius.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he says he is, but have you ever met him?
Only in passing.
Oh, hey, me too. I got a card. He gave me a card that says
Yes.
He hands out cards instead of autographs. It's certifies
Brilliant.
you met Steve Martin and found him to be a wonderful, charming man.
Yep.
Well, that's a great one. That's going to be really hard to beat. So, Liz, Steve Martin, who do you have?
So I was looking for someone because Ron Burgundy is not my favorite character. Just throw it out there. But I was looking for somebody who had that charismatic Anchorman feel, somebody who had the coiffed hair and all the things, but then when you turn the camera off, could also be either really serious or possibly drunk, maybe high, and very funny. So my choice might be a little weird, but I went with Christian Bale, but Christian Bale a la American Psycho. So if you remember how he gets real jaunty and like, I don't know. So
Oh, absolutely. He had that the suit. He had the goofy smile.
Yeah.
He's known for screaming at the crew. So maybe
Yeah.
instead of being dumb, he's just mean.
Well, he threatens to kill everybody like 27 times. So
That's true.
you know.
He's caught in a cage of emotion. What are you going to do?
Right.
We've got Steve Martin. We've got Christian Bale. I also went with Steve Martin because I honestly think he's the only guy crazy and dumb enough to be able to do it. So that gives you Alex a point. But the judges, they decided also to give it to Steve Martin. So commanding 2-point lead for Alex right out of the gate. But it is early and you can easily come back. So don't get cocky there, Alex. I can see him already smiling and all happy. So now we move to the only woman in the whole movie, and that is actually by design and incorporated into the plot. It is a very male chauvinistic world that Ron Burgundy inhabits, and they definitely show that. So it's not like it's a boys' club. It really shows how jerk men can be. So Liz, who do you have playing Veronica Corningstone, that is also played by Christina Applegate?
I wanted to find somebody who was a bombshell and also smart and also could be funny and bitchy and all the things that Veronica Corningstone has to be to deal with this club of gentlemen. So I went with Margot Robbie.
That's a good one because Margot Robbie she's the current it girl, I say, but she's very talented. Super. I don't think she's going away. I think she is still on her trajectory up, if you can believe it. She was fantastic in I, Tonya. The Harley Quinn is good, but I kind of, I'm not a big Harley Quinn fan.
Well, that's where that kind of, she does have a sense of humor, and then she can also be a little cray-cray. So.
Oh yeah, she's great, and every time I see her in things, so she's definitely perfect for this particular role. So Alex, you've got someone the caliber of Margot Robbie. Who are you going to go with?
I want to say that's a great pick first. But for me, what I was looking at was, with this being such a improvisational movie and so over the top, where you would need a comedic powerhouse to be able to hold her own in this male chauvinistic film, I went with Kristen Wiig,
who, as we all know, is a superstar. I call it superhuman comic abilities. She was in Anchorman 2. The legend continues as Brick's girlfriend, and those two together was chef's kiss. Just watching those two idiots interact with each other. Obviously, she was huge in Bridesmaids. I thought she was good in Ghostbusters, but of course, she was phenomenal in MacGruber. We all make mistakes. And we will see her Christmas Day on Wonder Woman 1984 as Cheetah. I think that one's a really good one because she's fantastic too. So we've got Margot Robbie, Kristen Wiig. If you got Steve Martin, you got to go with Bernadette Peters. Of course, everyone under 35 is going, what the hell are you talking about, Craig? Bernadette Peters, amazing talent.
Love
The
her.
judges they discussed it, and they decided that Margot Robbie is the it girl, and we definitely want her. Well done.
excellent choice.
So Liz, back at it. She's only 1 point behind. As we move on to Alex and talking to Brian Fantana, played by the ageless wonder, Paul Rudd.
Now,
who do you
when
have
I was
playing
watching
Paul?
this, sorry.
I said, who do you have playing Paul in this?
Who I have playing Paul. Well, how do you replace Paul Rudd? But I really struggled with this one a little bit, but I couldn't get the younger Chris Evans, pre-Captain America, out of my mind, where he was just the goofy, not another teen movie, while still being obviously the most handsome man in the group, but also really dumb enough to think Sex Panther would work for 60% of the time.
Well, I knew he had this mustache from a movie, and it's the only picture of him that's not like a bad screenshot. So I wanted this particular one because this is the look you're going for, right?
Absolutely.
So he went with America's ass, Chris Evans. Liz, who do you have?
That's a fun pick right there. Because I can't replace Paul Rudd with Paul Rudd, because you should replace everybody with Paul Rudd and life is good. I went with Joseph Gordon-Levitt because I think he's adorable, but I think he also has enough personality to just make that role crazy and fun and rock a mustache.
The only mustache I could find was when he played Robert Lincoln in Lincoln for Spielberg.
Probably not what we're going for.
But not what we were going for. So this is, I just kept it looking dashing that he is, because he is always that good-looking second guy. And I think he would do the Don Juan. I don't know if you saw Don Juan that he was in.
Yeah.
That kind of mentality might be good for Brian Fantana. So that's two good ones. This one's going to be difficult. We've got America's Ass, JGL. I went with a young Michael Keaton. I wanted a night shift, gung-ho, Mr. Mom, Michael Keaton.
Frazzled.
Yeah, exactly. The judges decided JGL. So just like that, Liz, you are back in it, tied it up with 4 left to go. So this is just going to be a close game, it looks like. All right. So now we move on to my favorite character and one of my favorite actors, Steve Carell as Brick Tamlin. This guy, I mean, to say mentally challenged, it'd be a compliment. He has some severe blunt force trauma somewhere, mostly to the brain, but he is so sweet and so nice that this one's going to be really hard. So we will start with Liz. Liz, who do you have? This one's going to be tough. Who you got replacing this idiot?
I went with another idiot. I went with David Cross, because he just has the same feel to me in a lot of the things that I've seen him in. Just kind of goofy and yeah.
I can't remember the sitcom that he was on. He was on a sitcom for a little bit because he played a mentally challenged person. Because I remember him going chicken pot, pie, and so he's already played someone kind of like Brick. So that's great. Of course, we all love him from Arrested Development. Everything else, if he was here, he'd be mad because he really hates the Alvin and the Chipmunk movies. But that's too bad.
Well,
he is also the crane in Kung Fu Panda. So, Alex, we've got David Cross. Who do you have?
Now, it was really difficult to cast this because Steve Carell does such a great job, somehow both being professional enough that you're like, okay, maybe nobody notices he's that stupid and that's how he has the job. But the more he speaks, the more you hear it. And then just the screaming, loud noises and I love Lamp. I couldn't get Alan Tudyk out of my head because he has that professional look, but he can play dumb. And the idea of being able to expand that role going into other movies with any kind of voice work. I mean, when you could convincingly play a chicken who's also mentally handicapped in Moana, you kind of got Alan Tudyk in that role.
That's why he's Iago in the new Aladdin, but he's also hi or he hey. See, I don't have my vowels correctly, and all he does is go.
Exactly.
And the fact that they hired Alan Tudyk to do that is ridiculous.
Well, allegedly, some of the actual animation that went into it was his body language while recording the noises, so that's what I really appreciate from it.
Well, I love him as K2SO in Rogue One. Yes, I think that's one of my favorite droids. So, this is another close one. We've got David Cross. We've got Alan Tudyk. I went with Rick Moranis from Ghostbusters, because he plays an idiot in that, too.
Oh.
Well, he does. Let's be honest.
He's just awkward.
He's dumb. He is dumb as a rock. I love Rick Moranis, though. So, we've got a score is tied 2-2, and Alan Tudyk. So, Alex takes back the lead.
I thought I was losing that one.
Well, now we move on to Champ, played by David Koechner. I love David Koechner. He is. If you need a funny redneck, you get David Koechner. So, Alex.
Now, to be fair, I didn't quite go with the redneck in this regard, but I definitely went with the over-the-top physical comedy, trying to be the alpha male, but with all the flaws exposed, and I had to go with Chris Farley.
This was an inspired pick. When I saw this, I was like, "Oh, that's really good. You came to play." the manic hurricane of comedy. We saw that the problem is he wasn't in a lot of movies before he passed. Tommy Boy was the big one. Black Sheep was kind of, and then Beverly Hills Ninja was just garbage. But he did have a lot of things, like he was in Wayne's World and all, Night at the Roxbury and things like that. So that one is a good one. Liz.
Yeah, I love Chris Farley. No, I'm sad.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us down, man.
I try to go with, this guy just seems, he seems pretty dumb to me in general, but he, that kind of hillbilly thing happening, also super machismo. I went with John C. Reilly.
He is not dumb. He is great.
No, I don't mean he's dumb. He can play that character. Yeah.
But he is fantastic. I love him in Kong Skull Island. He's just goofy as all get out. But the guy is nominated for an Academy Award for singing in Chicago. So don't ever forget. This guy is so talented. We forget because he plays, he's in Step Brothers and all these things. You are going for a Oscar bait kind of
an Oscar for champ kind.
Well, we also have Christian Bale as Ron Burgundy, so
that is true.
She's really going for it. Which, hey, you never know. So we have Chris Farley, John C. Reilly. I wanted to switch it up as well and go with Terry Crews, who is, it's just all about being super excited about sports. And I think he can be that kind of whammy, that guy. He just got to do that. The judges conferred, and they went with, you got to go with the legend, Chris Farley. Well, now we move on to recently passed, but will never be forgotten, Fred Willard, who plays the station manager, Ed Harkin. Liz, who do you have playing the irreplaceable Fred Willard?
Well, that is a mouthful. I think that these two probably get confused from time to time, so that might be an easy kind of switch out. In a lot of the same movies, I went with John Michael Higgins.
Absolutely. They are part of the Christopher Guest alumni group. He is fantastic. He is the unsung hero of many people because he's great. He was David Letterman in The Late Shift when he did that Jay Leno Letterman fight. Best in Show. Apparently he was in Blade Trinity as somebody. I know. And if you watched earlier in the season, we did Pitch Perfect, and we had to recast him, which is not easy.
Yeah.
So
I love him in Pitch Perfect because he's an Anchorman kind of a jerk.
He's doing Fred Willard, who was doing the same position in Best in Show. So absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's move on to Alex. Alex, this one's going to be a tough one. Who do you have?
Well, I got to say, I'm glad I went a slightly different direction because as far as fitting the exact mold for Fred Willard and nailing that character, that's a great pick by Liz. But I tried to go with, even though this guy comes across as idiotic as they all do in this movie, I wanted somebody that would be the older hand that they do still respect because that's one of the things that these idiots all listen to in the movie. And I went with Patrick Stewart.
Ooh. As I have him here, he's the cowboy crooner. If you haven't, pick up his album of cowboy songs. We all know him as Professor X. We all know him as Captain Picard. He was great in Robin Hood Men in Tights when he came in at the end.
Hilarious.
But he is fantastic. So this is going to be a tough one because you did kind of go, it's two different people. You got John Michael Higgins, who is straight out funny, no doubt about it. You've got Patrick Stewart, who is nothing but talent and acting. I went with the old Harvey Korman. I love him. I miss him. Him and Tim Conway were so hilarious. I think he'd be perfect for this. The judges conferred John Michael Higgins. And with that, Liz, you are one away. And this last one is going to be a big one because you can either tie or, if you did like he did with Ron Burgundy, you could win next one. So it's at the minimum, we're going to have a tie. Ooh, it's exciting. This is when the pressure builds. Well, now we move on to not the guy with the squinty eye, but the dashing Vince Vaughn. You'd be surprised to find how hard it is to find pictures of these guys in character from a movie from that long ago. Yeah. So, who do you have playing the rival newscaster, Wes Mantooth? Alex.
The thing that rung true to me is you needed somebody who was still very handsome because you have that on-camera personality while still being a raging douche. At the same time, being the young upstart compared to my Ron Burgundy, and I went with Joel McHale.
Oh, now you want to talk about raging douches. Because I would have put that down if I had thought of it. Instead of being a sarcastic lead, raging douche. Not a lot of movie credits. He was in Spider-Man 2. He was in The Informant, but every comedian was in The Informant. He was in the Happy Time Murders, which you'll hear James Owen discuss just a little bit when we talk about the Muppet Christmas Carol on Boxing Day, because directed by Brian Henson. But what you're talking about is Wes Mantooth, Joel McHale from Talk Soup. Is that what I'm getting?
That and Community were the two that were in my mind with that.
Yeah. Liz, what do you have that can beat Joel McHale?
Well, I went a little bit of a different way, but for whatever reason, this guy just popped into my head as the jerky bully. He's got not a lot to. He's number two. We're number two, so he doesn't have a lot to contribute, but he thinks he does. He's all in. So I went with Thomas F. Wilson, who played Biff in Back to the Future.
Yep.
But kind of in between age-wise, like Back to the Future 1 and 2. So.
Yep. As we like to say, he's the time-traveling proto-Trump, because Biff Tannen is basically, especially from Back to the Future 2. But oddly enough, you both went with someone from The Informant. So it's competing-wise. Now, this one, you probably want to age him up a little bit, but I tried to find someone at that age for you, because he wasn't in a lot of movies. He does a lot of voiceover work. So he was in the Back to the Future movies, but, SpongeBob SquarePants, and then, of course, the Oscar-winning Larry the Cable Guy Health Inspector. So, let's go. That's what we got here. We've got Joel McHale, Thomas F. Wilson. Now, Liz, if you've picked what I've picked, you will have tied this game.
Pretty sure I didn't.
All right. Well, let's see. I went with Will Arnett. Because you want raging douche, you need Job. You need a Will Arnett type.
Yeah.
Now, that means there's two people, there's two other judges, myself included. Is it Joel McHale? Is it Thomas F. Wilson? If it's Joel McHale, Alex, you have won, and you will join Rob as the 2 out of the 3 of the Clubhouse podcast victors. If it's Thomas F. Wilson, we will go into overtime. And that means what we will have to do is we will have to talk about a double feature with Anchorman. So will it be Joel McHale for the win? Thomas F. Wilson for the tie?
Oh, you're dramatic pausing. Come on, man.
Oh, I know. It's like,
We can't go to a commercial because we don't have any sponsors. But we go with Joel McHale. And with that, Alex, you have.
I really thought we were going to OT on that one.
Good job, Alex.
That was. You both had very inspired picks. I thought they were all fantastic. I mean, it really was close. Because if you think about it, you only got 4, and she only got 3 because you got that special Steve Martin. So you did win it outright. But
well, I'm going up against a phenomenally talented competitor, so that's not to be expected.
Alex, you are today's winner. What is your final thought?
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here, holding trophy. I'm going to need to have that. But one of the things that we had this past weekend was Who Needs Sleep. If you want to look at whoneedsleep.org, it's providing money for cancer charities in North Texas. It is a phenomenal group, and they put in one hell of a telethon for 36 hours straight.
Absolutely, and we are big sponsors. Not sponsors. We are big supporters of Who Needs Sleep. I did a little podcasting section that showed up at 3 a.m. So you know that I was prime time.
Oh, you got ran twice, sir. You did get prime on Sunday as well.
Was it Sunday or Saturday at 2 o'clock?
It ran twice.
Oh, I thought it was Saturday at 2 o'clock and then Sunday night at 3 a.m. So I was right when either people are working outside in the garden or they can't sleep at night. So I get the insomniac crowd. But let's see what's going to happen next week when we have Game 6? Good Lord, we're getting through this.
Game 7. I think we're 6.
It is. You're right. That's why I was like, this is crazy.
I'm paying attention to your show. Come on, man.
I don't have time to pay attention to my show. I've got things to do. But we have semifinalists. Basically, the runner-up, Patrick Beatty versus Metal Geek's Kerry Gordon. This is going to be an exciting matchup, which we will do next week. And the movie they're going to do is the controversial the hilarious. I don't even know if we should do this because this is going to be difficult, but I'm going to go with it anyways and pull the trigger on Tropic Thunder.
Oh, that's such a great one.
That is, when they get to Robert Downey Jr., you're going to see two white guys and a host sweat because that is exactly how you're not supposed to do it. But if you like the show, follow us on Twitter at Matinee Heroes. You can watch the show at twitch.tv/Matinee Heroes. You can also follow us on Facebook, or you can go to matineeheroes.com/castoff, where they have links to all of our video streams, and you can join us on YouTube. And once we get the customized YouTube channel, we will send that instead. But on behalf of Liz and today's winner, Alex, thank you so much for watching the show. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next week.